Hello everyone, Helvian here, and we are back with Hunter x Hunter Volume 20. This is like probably the cutest volume cover that we've had, maybe ever, in Hunter x Hunter. Look at the cute long cat. And the chibi designs. It's nice. The volume author comment. Look at this. What an inspirational quote from Tagashi here. Oh my god, I've can't help but feel for the man. Uh, he's like he's been reduced to a blob of goo by working on this manga. Man, it sucks. But you know what doesn't suck? Hunter x Hunter. This arc is pretty good, although this is probably like kind of a lower point. It is just training, but there's still good stuff to this training arc. We're introduced to Palm, and she's very she's a fun character. It's like very very creepy. Despite the lower detail that you get Hunter x Hunter, she's like she's just still very scary. That's nice. And we introduced to Knuckle. So basically, we have like a month to defeat Gon and Kill, and he defeat Knuckle and the other guy. He didn't say did much this volume. It's mostly a Gon and Knuckle volume. Basically whoever wins gets to go to the Chimera Ant Palace, or they go to NGL, where the Chimera Ants do the stuff. Which, okay, I'm wondering, like, when are we going to go to the other country? Because I guess that's probably like around when probably when Meruem is born, right? Because I know the palace is in a different country on the same continent or island, So I guess that's when we move to not NGO. It's something, some nation, I forget, like a dictatorship. But anyways, uh, apparently this doesn't matter since both groups will get to go to fight. But it's good to learn, good to get more experience, and then good stuff. They like triple the amount of time they can maintain like their Ren, right? So that's good stuff there. I think Gon's getting a bit more tactical with how he fights. He used Jajunken, which is his new new name for his ability. Where he used as a feint. That's cool. And he used the paper. At the end, he used the paper form of Jajunken to like fired paper and then like darted back behind Knuckle and then for the big knockout punch. But it didn't work since he used up all his energy in the paper. However, it would have worked. It would have worked. And yeah, more or there's some other good appearances. We get Shia Poof. You see him for the first time. Menthu Yopi is going to be born soon. That damn name, man. Poof can hear thoughts or something. That's interesting. Netero seems to think that uh what's their name again? Pito. He seems to think Pito is stronger than him, which is interesting. I guess that's Cap. Since Netero is able to go toe to toe with Meruem for a fair bit. Well, I say a fair bit. I don't know how long that fight was, because we have like fights like Gone and Knuckle that went for like 10 minutes, but then in like Camarant uh Palace Invasion, a lot of shit goes on in like seconds. You know, so like I don't know. I like this page, this chapter cover. Who wins at our turn? Look, unfortunately, this arc is going to be a bit long. You have to wait until it's over. But look at this, chapter 203, Gyro. Let's talk about Gyro, because Gyro made an interesting uh appearance in this vault chat. Okay, this is the only. Apparently, this is the only time Gyro shows up in the manga, which is a very interesting, because they actually spent this whole chapter hyping up Gyro. And who was Gyro? Well, Gyro was an NGO, like king of NGO or NGL. Yes, NGL. New Green Life, which is the country they're in, and he eventually was eaten by a Chimera ant. Although he became the Chimera ant basically, but his consciousness still shined through because he's hardcore. You know that can happen, and well, if that was all we knew, I guess it wouldn't be too much. But Dagashi, which gave this guy like one of the most hardcore backstories in the fucking manga. Like, he had an abusive dad that worked him from birth. He grew up in a construction camp until age 12. Before he learned to talk, he learned how to mix concrete and lay bricks. Uh, he can only eat. There's just so much shit to him. But he killed his dad, who he idolized, because someone let him know that his dad did not love him. He always thought his dad cared for him despite the abuse, because there was one point where he was sick and he remembered that his dad, carefully nursed him, his health, and that his dad never told him to leave. Because in his dad also taught him, the one lesson that his dad taught him was that don't cause problems for other people. But when he was bullied, there's an incident where he was bullied, and his dad saw him and didn't care. So he's like, "Oh, don't cause problems for anyone." Anyone meant his father. His father didn't care whether he lived or died. That's why he didn't tell him to leave. He just didn't care for him. Uh, and also he was like sick. When he was sick, it was someone else who cared for him. He didn't. I mean, he was. I guess he was too sick to even notice. Uh, that was crazy, and he just like cracked and killed his father, and then established NGL, and then now he's the Chimera ant that left the queen, and is just out in the world now. He wants to disseminate evil, and one of the things was through the drug. Remember last time they said they were doing drugs? They're making drugs in NGL. Illicit drugs. I guess that's part of Gyro's plan to be evil. That was only the beginning. You know. And then now he left the town. He was in the same town that Gon was in. And the narration says Gyro left town and disappeared without encountering Gon. Whether this proved to be fortunate for either party will not be known until they ultimately meet. This directly hints at a confrontation between Gyro and Gon. But as far as I know, Gyro has not shown up again. Which is okay. Okay. I guess we'll keep that in our back pocket, back of our mind, while reading the rest of the manga. Because apparently it won't be worthwhile for a while to remember. But yeah, so Moro and Netero and Nov are taking care of the Chimera ants. They're doing it in a unique way where Moro will do his like smoke mist thing to isolate Chimera ants. Nov will use his portals to teleport them, basically, the Chimera ant, into a just like random room where Netero's in, and then Netero will just like kill them. I don't know if he bothers giving them a fair fight, or if he just instantly, punches them from the pine or anything like that. But yeah, that's definitely an efficient way of dealing with the problem. And ultimately, they kind of leads the Chimera ants to be a bit more, careful about, going outside and stuff. Although a lot of the Chimera ants don't really care much, about, as we discussed, don't really care much about serving the queen or anything. Oh, hey, we did see UP. Yeah. Oh, and there's Kite. Oh, wait, I thought Kite died. Well, Pito made their ability, Dr. Blythe, although we didn't see it was called Dr. Blythe. But they said that, like, oh, I'll make my ability something to heal. And I guess that's Kite. We can't do anything. There's a puppet? Like a puppet thing? Yeah. We don't see how UP. Oh, so it kind of looks weird. Didn't UP have, like, things on his back? I don't know. Probably just initial weirdness in. Well, man, look at this page. Sure, it's rougher, but you can tell how skilled Tagashi is, man. Okay, Pito looks like a robot here. Like their legs, like knees, like what? What are you, Pito? Oh, okay. Yeah, most of it is like, but the rest is like Gon versus Knuckle, which isn't bad, but I don't know. I feel like I feel like I've already talked about much of it. Although the killer, okay. Well, I like the ability. He's a big tough guy, but his ability it's like banker shit. Like a banker's Nen ability. You've accrued interest, and it's an interesting one. He punches you, or like, and he gives you Nen. His punches buff you. But the longer you go, you lose time, and the interest builds. And when the interest builds to a point where the amount, okay, well, the amount that's represented here is a Nen unit, which I don't like. I don't. They're almost doing like power scaling shit, where the amount of Nen you have, I can represent that in a number. You have less than they call it aura units, actually. Gone. You have less than 20,000 aura left, even with the 390 aura I lent you. I don't stop with these numbers, man. We're going to do. Okay, I know it's not going to go into Dragon Ball shit territory, with power level, but still, I don't like any representation of, an ability, like it's something like aura or chakra or, chi or whatever in or hockey, any of that as a number. I don't like it. Bleach never did that, and I love Bleach, But, Hunter x Hunter makes very clear that, sure, having a lot of Nen is having more Nen than the opponent, it helps, but it's not everything. And with Killua's case, we talked about Killua, how he doesn't, he has a hard time, like, not backing away from a fight where the opponent is stronger. And Biscuit does chastise him for this. That it's one of his weaknesses. Like she went into her gigantic form to like spar with him, and he like gives up. He was ready to bail. Yeah, that's how like, it's not your fault, Kill. She says, the blame lies in the person who taught you how to fight. It'll be hard to break. Which is like, oh, one day you'll let Gon down and leave him to die. Oh man, what a fucking line. Uh, and yeah, this is what like Moral was saying. Internal and external factors affect performance. On the best day, C can beat D. That's good stuff to learn. What else think was interesting earlier in the volume, Killa was talking to Gon like, oh, and Moro was like, hey, you should give up too easily or whatever. And he was like, oh, actually, I think that's fine, actually, because, why fight people we aren't going to win or whatever, Like, even, he was even justifying himself there, which is interesting. Yeah, good, all good stuff in this volume. But I know it's gonna get even better as we go forward. So let's go. Oh yeah, Kill was about to fight at the very end of it. At the end of this volume, that's where it left off. Kill is it to fight Wing? Is that his name? No, Wing's another different guy. I forget. He has a weird ability with his hands. It's interesting, whatever that is. um, but yeah, that's good. Good, good, 100, goodbye.